So this video could be considered a part 2 to Thursday's setup guide video, but I thought they should be in two different videos, like one for just the setup itself, and then one for how I'm doing the actual hunting and working on the respawns. But before we get into that, after I finished the video for doing the setups, while I was still going around and finishing setting up for this video, I did have one more thing that just kind of had to be in a video. So this is actually still the kind of setup phase, but there's actually an albino stag down here. He's only a 5. Would have preferred a higher scoring one, but at least he's actually a decent looking 5. Like, he's got tines all the way up his antlers. He doesn't have like the kind of just beams that have no tines anywhere. Yeah, we actually got the hard shot with the 6.5 and he actually landed pretty nicely. So I do need to set up my tent and tripod for this spot, but yeah, I thought we'd start this video with that because that's actually pretty cool. So that's not a bad looking stag. Like every other rare red deer I kill, he's just kind of average size. But that is also something can happen that while you're setting this up, you can end up just finding something really cool because you're checking all the different lakes and places you don't usually go, which we hunted Cuatro for TruRAC red deer when they came out. I didn't come to this lake down here and there was an albino waiting for us. So yeah, that was actually pretty cool. There was an albino just chilling on my map before I even started grinding for a diamond. But I do want to get into a couple of things quickly before we do any hunting. So the first thing is, I cleared almost all the hunting pressure just by shooting a ton of Bathides ibex up here. There's a bit left over from where a pack of wolves attacked me, but I shot like 20 plus ibex and some mouflon just to clear the pressure at all my lakes. And the other thing I'll say is, I wasn't seeing like any red deer if I did this before 7:30, and I believe the reason is wolves feed till either 7 or 7:30, it depends on the particular zone. And I think the wolves are running around and actually spooking my red deer, so if you're doing this for red deer not seeing very many, maybe try actually going after 7:30, because I think that's what was going on. But this is the first lake, and I'm just going in order of how I actually kind of set them up. And you can do your own route just however you like it, but I'll try to stay consistent, like do the south first and then move up to the north. But anyway, there is no red deer stag, there's no red deer at all at this lake, and we only had one when we did this. So probably, since we haven't shot that many red deer, there's just no respawn yet, and that's fine. We'll just move on to the next spot, and hopefully, once we've shot a bunch more red deer as we do this, the next time there's actually going to be a respawn there. So that's to be expected. You're not going to have a red deer or a whatever species you're using this guide to grind for. You won't have a new one at every spot you go to, but you should have them at some spots. And I mean, that's how it started out for me with whitetail. Like, I didn't have whitetail bucks at all my zones, but the more that I did this, I did get more and more whitetail showing up because the respawn started to work out. But I'm not seeing a stag. But yeah, I am. There's actually one right there. So basically, I talked about it in the last video. We are going to hopefully, if we can get a shot at him, take out the stag from the tripod. And if we can't, maybe this is actually a good opportunity to show it. It's not the worst thing in the world, especially if you're only shooting one animal, to take it like when you're not in the tripod, because it's only going to be tier 1 hunting pressure, and that'll go away pretty quickly. So I don't mind actually getting out of the tripod to get a better shot at him. I think that's fine. Just if we would end up shooting 2 or 3 animals, I'd much prefer to be in the tripod, because that's the hunting pressure we want to avoid, getting multiple animals worth, I guess, of hunting pressure stacked on top of each other. That's not great, but just shooting that one stag out of the tripod, that's going to be fine. And probably after this video, I'll move that tripod a little bit if that's where the red deer like to be, just so I can maybe have a more clear shot. And that's something you do when you're working on, you know, these kind of grinding sessions for different animals. You can adjust your setup as you go along to sort of make it more efficient. So that was something I planned on showing at some point in this guide, the fact that you don't like have to use your tripod. If you need to get out to get a better angle, that's like absolutely fine. But I didn't really think I'd be showing it at the first lake. But yeah, let's actually just go ahead and take care of these 2 lakes in the far south. And I'll actually recommend one other thing as we head down here, and that's your weapon choice. I think I may have mentioned it because I went over my loadout in the last video, but I was using the 6.5 and not the weapon that I'm actually going to be using for most of this grinding. So I have the M1, and the main reason I have the M1 is it's really fast follow-up shots, and it's plenty powerful enough to bring down a red deer quite quickly. You could use the 7mm. The red deer will probably die a little more quickly, but you don't get those quick follow-up shots. So any herd that has multiple stags, likely you're either going to be taking pot shots at fleeing ones and hoping for either like a lucky shot in the back of the neck or intestine shots to build up or whatever. Whereas with the M1, you can kind of get those quick follow-up shots in there before they actually flee. So that's why I'm using that. The 30-06 is fine if you have that. The bolt action, you can get that shot off quickly enough. But, I mean, there's a red deer track here. I just don't know where he is drinking exactly. Now, when I set that tripod up for this spot, if I remember correctly, I didn't know where the zone was. I just saw a red deer fleeing down here. So that is another one where I probably have to adjust it as I go along. But I'm not really sure where he drinks, so that's going to be one that we probably have to come back to. But I do know that there is a herd of them down at this tripod. And I should have put a tent down here. I think I have room for one more on the map, so I'll likely do that next time as well. Actually, it looks like there's maybe a zone in the middle here somewhere, because we have a fleeing red deer. Had the track and actually now see him, so we'll definitely go for that. Try to get that in the lung just from that angle. It's definitely not a great angle to be taking a lung shot, and I definitely don't think we got it. But, even though I lost my breath right as we shot, we got neck or brain there. But something I wanted to make like a big point in this video is this isn't going to be an exact guide of like where to place your tripods and where to do, like, it's not an exact science, I guess is what I want to say. You basically need to find where your red deer are and adjust your setup accordingly to make your hunts as efficient as possible. That's the point that I want to get across throughout the course of this guide. And I can definitely, like, you know, do my best to show you what I'm doing and, you know, what works. But the locations and, like, super specific stuff, it's not going to really transfer over from map to map because everybody's map is different. For instance, I was on, I don't know how many multiplayer servers today because I've been looking for a diamond red deer in multiplayer as well. Plenty of lakes don't even have a herd of red deer down here, so it just depends on your own map and all that stuff. So that's why I'm trying to be kind of like, I guess, loose with what I recommend, because it does just matter like what your map is actually kind of set up, or how it is set up, I guess, as far as the populations. Unfortunately, that guy took off before we got the follow-up shot in, and sometimes that's going to happen. It's not super consistent. Apparently, we got a good shot anyway. We must have had either, like, double lung liver or lung liver stomach, something like that, which is lucky. But, yeah, sometimes they stick around a little longer, sometimes not so much. And I do want to also maybe show if there's another herd somewhere that has two. But if you have two stags that you're trying to shoot, and one is alert and one is calm, shoot the alert one first, because the alert one's going to run far more quickly if you shoot the other one first. So that is a tip for shooting multiple animals in the same place. You want to get the one that's alert or attentive or whatever first, because they're going to get to the fleeing state first. But it was hard on the first one, and then just because I'm actually genuinely curious, I want to see what happened with this one before we move on to the next point. But we actually had just double lungs, so he didn't take off quite as quickly as I thought. Alright, well anyway, we're going to go down to this next lake. This is the lake where we shot the albino, actually, so we'll see if we have a respawn down there just yet. Well, we have one on that side of the lake. I don't know if I alerted him. And I don't know if our tripod is far enough from where the other herd is, because when I set this up, I only knew of, like, one drink zone. So we may need to actually move this spot a bit. Yeah, there's a 5 there. And then there's the one that we can't really see from the tripod. So again, something to adjust with our setup, and we'll do that maybe actually now, since we're right by a tent. I can change my inventory around. I don't actually have space in my inventory to pick up the tripod right away, so I'll have to switch that around. But I would like to, if I can, get a shot at the other red deer, just to get the respawn, but I don't actually see where he went. We'll worry about him next time, but I do want to probably place this tripod in a position where we can see both zones. And I would say we could even maybe use this blind that's here, but I don't know that it would be as good. So we'll just kind of get this out here. And again, it's the entire thing, like, adjust your setup to where you can be as efficient as possible and kill as many, honestly, red deer in general, but as many red deer stags as you can, or whatever species you're actually wanting to grind for. And I'll maybe look into moving that a little bit more later. There's another one right there that I didn't even know about. Alright, So I said earlier that it's okay to get out of your tripod and shoot red deer when you're not in the tripod, but considering we shot one over there already, that would be tier 2 pressure, and that just takes a lot longer to get rid of than tier 1, so we'll actually go ahead and jump in the tripod and shoot him from that, and that's going to just be way easier to deal with. I don't know how that dropped him. I must have hit him in the spinal cord or something. But yeah, now it's like half of a normal amount of hunting pressure instead of twice a normal amount, which is just so much easier to get rid of just as we're doing the runs. But basically, this is what you do. You go around to all the spots you set up, try to shoot any and all stags you can. There was another one in there. I'm not going to shoot him because it's going to just, again, be too much hunting pressure. I'll let him go. We'll get him next time. But good to know that there's that many potential red deer spawns up here. And maybe I'll end up moving this setup to like that side if I can. The hill's pretty steep. I don't know if I'll be able to see. But again, adapt the setups to whatever's going to be best. But yeah, we're making these runs across the maps to all those different spots, just pretty much over and over, trying to shoot every stag that we can. And we're trying to get respawns. It's as simple as that. And the hope is that eventually we shoot enough animals, or shoot the right animal, or, you know, whatever it is that causes a diamond to respawn. We do that, and then we can get our diamond. But we're actually close to the end of red deer drink time already because we did start late due to the wolves kind of messing with us. So we'll try these lakes. Maybe we can get to all 3, and then we'll actually reset the time. And actually, one more thing. Something you can do is pay attention to the time of your red deer zones. So unfortunately, I think I spotted Mouflon down at this one, so it isn't going to help us. But this one only goes to 9. That's a roe deer zone. This one goes to 9:30, so we know we can worry about that one later because they will be there a little bit longer than some of the early zones that end at 9. So that's something to actually factor into the routes that you take, like which spots you go to first. The zones that last longer, you can definitely save till later and, again, just be more efficient. But I see 3 stags over there. This tripod was for this zone, which I don't see any red deer in. So we'll go over to the one that's closer to just make our shots a little bit easier and maybe allow us to get 2, if not all 3. But they're in a bit of a tough spot, so we'll have to see. Actually, I think this is going to be the first time we go ahead and use the collar because I just don't see a way that we're going to get any kind of decent shots in there. So what I'll usually do, since this is about 200 meters and most collars reach 200, is I'll walk a little bit past my tripod. I'll go ahead and hit the call a few times just to get them interested. And then I'll back up and actually get in the tripod because we're not close enough to where we're going to spook them anytime soon. And just so you know, you can overcall in this game, but you have to basically actively decide to overcall. Like, you have to hit the call so many times, it's insane. So I wouldn't be worried about that. Just go ahead and hit the call a few times if you need to move them closer, and then start backing up and we'll get in here. And we'll see if we can get all 3. And I talked about this in one of the videos. It may have been the setup guide. I'm not sure which one, but I think it was maybe the brown bear video, actually. If you can't, you know, make the quick follow-up shots, maybe you don't have the M1, maybe you're playing on controller and it's just too difficult, that's not a big deal. You can kill 1 red deer at every spot, 1 whatever species at every spot, and do just fine. It may be a little bit slower, but you can do that. It's not going to be a big deal. And actually, if that's what you're doing, you can go without tripods and stuff, because then the hunting pressure is not going to be an issue. But especially when we're trying to kill multiple ones, unfortunately, I probably should have waited till they got out from behind the brush. But yeah, we at least could have a lot of hunting pressure here if we kill all 3. I know we got 2 of them for sure. I don't know if we got that 6 good enough to actually bring them down. It may have been intestines. It's a little far back, I think. But that was an example of less than ideal shooting. I probably should have waited, but I didn't want them to get too close. Because it does actually seem like, as well, when you're trying to take those quick follow-up shots, you want them as far away as you can get them, because they sort of become alert and flee a little bit more slowly. That's been my experience with whitetail anyway, so that's what I do. But I would actually say all 3 died, because you can see this pressure where we killed one of them is lighter than the pressure over here where we shot the other 2, so I do believe we managed to get all 3 of them. Got that next shot on the fleeing 4. This is going to be that first one that we shot in the lungs, and then, yeah, I think the level 6 should actually be dead up here as well. he did actually run fairly far, but it wasn't too bad. So we are past 9 o'clock pretty far, so I think we'll actually skip this spot, because we don't know, other than this red deer zone, of any that are up to 9:30. That one's only up to 9, so they should have left already. But this red deer zone that goes to 9:30, they should still be there. And we'll go ahead and hit this one before we do a time reset. And yeah, we got one that's actually traveling over there, so he may be getting ready to leave. And this was a red deer zone that I discovered after I was doing my setup. I wasn't actually setting up for ones across the way over here. So it's another thing where I'll probably have to sort of switch it up from what I set up initially. But I don't see any others. So I think we're going to try to get him. It's going to be a bit of a difficult shot, especially if he doesn't stop trotting. But that's him slowing down. Kind of thought I was going to keep walking, but I think we clipped the front of the lungs, so sort of lucked out on that one. Yeah, just barely in the front of the lungs there, so that could have turned into a lot less fun to recover him, but we're going to go ahead and change the time, and I'll probably skip this lake for now since we did the rest of this area, and I'll go back to that, and hopefully I can find a way to make these runs a little more efficient. But the fact that we have to start at 7:30 to avoid the wolves, if that has been the issue, that's definitely kind of slowing this down, the fact that we do have to change the time. So it could have been the fact that I needed to clear the hunting pressure and shooting the ibex was enough, but that's something I'll have to test in the future. And actually, this run probably seems like it's hardly optimized, and to be honest, it really isn't that much. It's only optimized to the point that I've moved some stuff since we started this video. Like, I shot 0 red deer since I finished setting it up, because I wanted you guys to see, like, the process, I guess, of moving your setup, realizing that you need to adapt certain things, and then the more runs you do of this, the more efficient you'll get. And, like, it got to the point that I was doing however many whitetail spots I had, 10 or 12, in, like, 30 minutes. Like, you can get really, really efficient at this. It does take time, though, and you do have to be kind of willing to take some time and sort of learn your setups and adapt them. Okay, there's a mythical just running right at us, I guess. That's a tripod, not a weapon. So he must have been in that zone and I got too close? I'm not sure. Maybe that was vertebrae. Maybe I shot a little bit too high. I thought that would have been good. Don't think that was any better, to be honest. Can we get eyes on that to see if we made a decent hit? I mean, he was running pretty hard, so maybe we got along the second time? I mean, he died. So, I'm not sure. Unfortunately, we didn't get to use that tripod that I set up. I maybe need to move that one back a little bit, but I guess another example of it not really hurting to shoot animals when you're not in the tripod. Because if they're going to spook like that, you're just best off getting the shot into it, getting the respawn, and then moving on. And yeah, we did luck out and get just the top of the left lung there, so got the full score on him. But I was actually thinking as I was running over here, I think I talked about it in the setup guide. For these bigger lakes where there's multiple zones, just like setting up multiple tripods across the lake seems to be the best way to go about it. And I do just want to say, like, I don't want this guide to come across like you do all this to set it up, you go on one hunt, and you kill a diamond. I mean, obviously we haven't killed a diamond yet, so I don't think that's going to be the standard that ends up getting set. But it can take a long time. Like, it took me hundreds of harvests and dozens of runs to get a diamond whitetail, and that wasn't even like what I was after. I was looking for like a great one. But yeah, in my experience with a whitetail, doing this ended up getting me a lot of really cool things. Like, I killed, I think, 6 rares and 3 diamonds. So I'm hoping that doing this with a red deer is actually going to net the same. But I think we actually may leave this guide here. There's not actually like a whole lot more to talk about beyond like being able to adapt your setup, trying to be efficient, be willing to change the time, be willing to try stuff out, such as, you know, starting the game at 7:40 for this one, because I think wolves were actually chasing my red deer. And yeah, honestly, like, put on a decent YouTube video, listen to some music, do whatever it is you need to do to put in the hours to grind like this. And from my experience with the other animals I've done this with, it does actually pay off. It just usually takes time. So yeah, once again, any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer those. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.